Good.
Okay. Good evening and welcome to the May 9th, that's tomorrow, meeting of the Historic Preservation Commission. My name is Edmund Chernesky and I am chair of this commission. Other commission members in attendance this evening are Nathaniel King, Rebecca Kropke, and we have Matthew Whitecamp. Sorry, you were hiding behind Rebecca. And Peter Keebler is present with us on Zoom. We also have in attendance Anya Collette and Brian Scannell, and our esteemed consultant, Mike Pullen. This is a slightly unorthodox meeting tonight in that we have no motions to vote on, so I'm going to skip all the parts in the opening spiel that we would talk about that and say, let's move into new business, assuming that's okay.
Yeah. So the main purpose of the first item is really just to have further discussion with the commission on locally designating Hasey's Main Stages building as a historic landmark. We have the draft amendment in your packet. That does have to go to council for first reading and then back to the commission and then back to council for final approval. And we do have Mr. Coleman here. If you have questions, or I don't know if you were going to present anything or if you're just going to answer questions.
I'll do whatever you want.
So I'll leave that up to the commission if you have questions you want to ask.
Would you like a general overview from our guest audience member, or do you want to pelt him with questions?
He's
so well
He's so well prepared.
He looks very well prepared.
Let's hear it.
Well, why talk about architecture if you don't show pictures, right?
That's right.
He was listening to you.
Yeah. Sorry, there's no desk for you.
My name is Lauren Coleman. I'm the director of the International Cryptozoology Museum. And as you may know, we've existed in Portland since 2003. And 2 years ago, we did,
Sorry, it's the owl. I don't know why it makes that sound.
what's that mean?
I don't know why it makes that sound. I would
It
just
just
ignore it.
randomly makes it?
I like owls.
It's a hoot noise and then stops.
So annoying.
We decided 2 years ago to move from Portland. It's too expensive. We're not attached to it. There's a lot of tourists there, but my wife grew up in the Bangor area and we moved up here. And so I wanted to buy property up here and consolidate all of the holdings of the museum in various locations in one place, in Bangor. And so 2 years ago, I started looking and found this building, which we're talking about tonight. This, in 2018, up until 2018, you mostly knew it around here as the Redemption Center. And I think the neighbors did not like the plans for the place. It was going to be a car wash, and there was an uprising in the neighborhood about that. And so the sale that went through was withdrawn, and it hadn't really been put up for sale until 2022 or 21. And so I found it. I wanted it for the nonprofit corporation that I'm the director of. Looked at it and bought it after 6 months of dealing with a lot of environmental problems that have been sorted out. Because this building used to be a transportation hub with regard to buses. That's why it's called the main Hasey's building, Stages building. And this is one of the first ads in 1946 from this, because it was seen as a place to have buses in the garage as well as a terminal. And it really opened up the travel to northern Maine. And so it's historically very important for that issue. After this kind of went down the hill as far as bus travel, the Haseys decided to sell cars. The Fraser Kaiser car, REO trucks, school buses until 1953. Then for several years from 1953 through 1971 or so, it was a laundromat. Not a laundromat where people would individually bring clothes, but it became one in which companies brought laundry there. And then it went back into the transportation business with the taxi company that you might have heard about, Town Taxi, a Yellow Cab, and Checker Cab all went through there. And then the Redemption Center from the same, in the same family became part of it. When I got involved in it, I started looking at it. One of the things I really liked about this building, of course, was that it was streamlined, modern. And that's a certain style which a lot of you probably know about, is like Art Deco, except it's really beyond Art Deco. It's shows, this is in 1946, in the newspaper, shows one of the first pictures of it after it was built. And all the lines were horizontal. Art Deco can go both ways, but this was very much the streamlined way of looking at it. After I purchased it for the nonprofit, I started asking some of my friends around the country, what would we do with this building? You know, it would become our museum, but what could we do to make this look a little bit nicer? You can't make it look too much nicer because then you don't get in the National Historical Commission, which I went through all of that with the architect. And we finally got that in March 19th of this year. We got listed on the National Registry of Historic Places. So anyway, I don't know if any of you have heard of the movie Stargate. Stargate, I know the art director of Stargate, and he said what he would do with it, he would make it look like this. So I'm not saying we're going to do green at all. We're going to go with white. But this is kind of how the other end people would imagine it. One of the first things that you may have noticed is that building that was still there. They had taken out, the laundromat people had taken out these glass block window here.
Yeah.
And so it had this window and it had doors and different things like that. As I'm starting to renovate it, I put the glass block in. So it is now like this. As you drive by, you can see that we've added that already. I looked all over for somebody and I got very scared that nobody did this anymore. I kept hearing that only Masons did it and they'd all died and stuff like that. We finally found somebody. And so these windows have come out, the doors come out, different things like that. This garage door over here hasn't worked for a long time. We're gonna have to redo that, make it into a fake garage door to keep the same similar look, but get rid of a lot that has really gone wrong with this building. But I think my hope, as a real flagship for our museum, we're going to have a little section on archaeology, on architecture, on local history, but not so much that we get involved in what's called creeping, policy and a creeping mission statement. Cryptozoology is really about new animals, natural history, and unusual animals. And that's going to be our focus. We have lots of school groups. We have lots of tourists from all over the world come and visit us. Nepal, Japan, Spain, all over the United States. So it's a very popular part of cryptozoology, and we get a lot of listings as sometimes the quirkiest museum or the weirdest museum in America and different things like that. We've been in Time Magazine, New York Times, Boston Globe, all of those. But what I've noticed is that the Bangor Daily News certainly likes to talk about us too, so that's really good. That's very good. So that's kind of the presentation. I guess I was very honored to hear from Brian and to know that the city of Bangor might list us because we would need that recognition just to be noticed I don't think we're interested in the tax credits because we're already a nonprofit. But if I understand a lot of people like to be on the list because of that, we would just like to be recognized and be on the list for that. So if there's any questions, I'm here to answer them.
Lauren, I have a quick question.
Sure.
By the way, your application was more than complete. I really love that. It was 50 pages is a lot to get through. But to the commission, the most important part, I think, and to the point, is the nomination paperwork for the National Register listing, which is about 30 pages worth. Why the term stages? It had nothing to do with stages, right? It was a bus. I mean,
No, it was.
Stagecoach? Stagecoach is what I was thinking.
Yeah, it was stagecoaches. The early development of transportation in the state of Maine is all of the routes were stage routes.
I
It
see.
was before buses, before cars, and they actually would go, if you look at Massachusetts, which really Maine followed Massachusetts, most of the taverns were just stage stops, and they were part of the Masonic legacy of having those taverns as being Masonic, being part of the stagecoach routes. And then it slowly got over to, as they had the routes already there and the roads, there were hardly any roads. They were just mud. And so it became,
Stages.
and so actually Hasey is written up in many publications as being the prominent person to really push forward the transportation northward. And I don't know if you know Paul Atwood.
Yeah.
He was
researched
the
him.
architect of this building.
Yeah.
And as he's the architect of the museum building in Bradley. So he has a little local history. But the commission wasn't interested in him. He's not as famous as Frank Lloyd Wright.
Well, no, but he was employed by Prentice and Carlisle, I think,
Yes.
at the time. He was a cartographer too, and some of his cartographic mapping skills were just nationally recognized.
Yeah, so I've been able to collect some of his maps from eBay
Wow, yeah.
that we'll display in the museum.
Cool.
That's cool.
So anyway, good, very good information, thank you.
Okay. Anything else? What's the
I-
name?
Can I just say something? This is Peter Keebler on the Zoom up here. I just wanted to say I would really like to commend you for your interest in the historical aspect of this and all the effort you've put into doing this. I think that's actually quite wonderful. It brings up a historical perspective that, well, certainly I didn't have for that building, having driven by it so many times in my life. And I think it's great. And then all you need now is a Kaiser Fraser car, to park out in front.
I've been looking.
Amazing.
No, I want to echo Peter's sentiment. I think it's wonderful that you care so much about this building. It's one of the few of this style around, and I go by it so often. I was always hoping for the best for it, and that makes it a happy
It
thing.
seemed a waste to tear it down and build a parking lot.
I absolutely
Or
love
car
this
wash.
building. Yeah, no, I love this building as well. Is that, the poster that you have right there, is that your vision for the final look of it?
No,
or
I haven't, I'm still working with the architects
Okay.
for the final. This is another person, this is an Art Deco woman that she does designs. We do have the Bigfoot down in Portland, which will be brought up here. We've already have the big sign, which I think you've all seen. We already went through the proper permitting to get that sign. And I noticed in a lot of the drawings from the laundromat days, there was an Art Deco type sign outside. I'd like some way to have something similar, but we will not have any bushes, which they did not do in Streamline. All of the artists like to put bushes in, but it doesn't really work. And you'll have seen probably that we've got rid of the stone wall that was out front because we're gonna put the ADA type ramp that will come right off our parking lot. So it'll look something like that. We're gonna keep this color scheme for the time being and see how radical we can get with all of the commissions and the historic. I've heard that this building was pink, that it was light green, that it was yellow, all during its history here in, in the 70s on.
Yeah, that would make sense for the time frame.
I think considering it's right off the highway and they're redoing all of that, it's really going to be visible in a new way. People used to see it because they'd want to take their bottles there. But I think it's gonna have and I wonder how much we're going to see a change because of this building. I don't know if you know, we certainly know in that neighborhood that Tri-City Pizza is talking about selling. So that would be a big impact for that corner and a real change, so anyway, it's interesting days. Thank you for.
Everything was very thorough. I didn't have any questions.
Okay. Thanks for seeing how much I appreciate the historical value. And it's really I always liked Art Deco, but to think that it's really the only building in Maine that's streamlined this way. The Opera House that's in town is Art Deco, but it's not from the streamlined era. So, anyway, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we will be back in June with the official text change and report, and we'll go from there.
And at that point, it's going before the city council and then back to here,
It'll
if I read
go,
things correctly, but.
it'll go to city council for first reading on the 29th of this month, and then second reading after your meeting in June. So.
Okay, I can leave.
Yeah, it's up to you. You're welcome to stay if you'd like. If that's all we have for the new business, then I think we'll be moving on to the other business, which is an update on tree removal.
Yep, I wasn't really, this was kind of just sent to me last week when the agenda was being put together, but I think the Historic Society just wanted to let you all know about what was going on with the tree. I think there was a big public outcry when they took the tree down, so I think they just wanted to give some background on why it was done. So I don't know if you have any more questions on that.
Well, Rebecca and I are both on the board,
Yeah.
so we can speak a little bit about it if that's
Oh,
okay.
sure. Yeah, I guess if you want to.
Thank you.
Thank you,
you.
Laura.
Thank you.
Good job. Well, what happened with the tree that was the closest to High Street, anybody that's familiar with the Hill House knows that there's a low granite wall that goes around Union Street and along High Street. That wall was considerably out of alignment because of the roots of the tree on the High Street side. And when we opened it up, we left it to the arborist, who I think was McIntosh.
Macintosh,
Yeah. Once we had discovered on the other tree, there's two big basswoods that are way out of scale with the house to begin with. They're not original to the property. They're less than 100 years old. They're not historic. But when we opened up the other wall on Union Street, we saw what looked like an 8-inch pipe running right along the base of the wall. But it was the root of the tree. And the way that these trees had to develop was they sent roots out, and then when it hit the wall, it went laterally all the way down the property. So we knew that when we were going to open up the one on High Street side, that we were going to be deeply into the roots, and that was the case. And what happened was, when they opened it up, that wall had been displaced about 10 inches out into the sidewalk, anyone that saw it. So we're in the process now, the Historical Society is having the wall rebuilt, reset, and a fence, remember they came to the
Yeah.
Downstairs,
commission
yes.
6 months ago or so, for the fence. So when they opened that up and cut into the roots of that tree and started to look at what was going on when they excavated, they discovered that the tree was not healthy at all. The tree, when they began to take it up down in sections, it started from the top down, we knew it had to go, first of all, because the roots were so affected by the excavations and the work that had to be done. It was right tight up against that wall. When they did finally get it down and sectioned it, anybody that saw on Facebook the posts of what the tree looked like inside, it was largely dead. It was a giant hollow section on the entire height of the tree. That was the one on the High Street side. The one on the other side was even worse. When the arborist drilled through the tree, he went in about 7 inches with solid wood. The rest of it was just floating in air. We got to the other side of the tree, which is about 5 feet across, and then discovered another piece of solid wood on the other side. So neither one of the trees was at all healthy. If you look at it from High Street, the one that was remaining had branches that came way out over the porch of the house. And we've been cutting down branches on that pretty regularly for the last 10 years as it begins to get closer and closer to the house. So it was not a healthy situation. Trees were not happy. The building wouldn't have been happy with this stuff coming down. The wall has to be rebuilt. That's kind of the long and short of it.
Yeah.
So there will be new trees planted. I think we're doing research right now on what trees would be most effective there. But somebody made a comment that now with the trees gone, you really notice the details of this lovely historic house much more than you did before when it was these two big foils were out in front. So the trees that they oftentimes had in illustrations of houses of that period were locust trees, which have a kind of a feathery sort of hanging light branch vegetation. Might be a nice choice. So
I have one on my property, they get very large.
they do get tall. So we want something that's not going to be out of
Shorter,
scale
yeah.
with the house. So Anya, I don't know if that's what you wanted to talk about.
No,
The commission does have to review things that are considered historic landscapes, but again, the trees were not at all original. The early photographs we have of the house actually showed fir trees out in front, long gone. So, point is, don't plant any American basswoods in your.
But they smell so nice.
They do,
They're
yeah.
lovely fragrant trees, but
They're fragrant. They're a beautiful tree, and the little leaf lindens that we plant along the streets are a cousin to these, but the leaves are much, much smaller, so.
unfortunately, to preserve that wall, you had no choice.
It was
No, it was
right up
falling
and into
off.
it, it was pushing it right out into the sidewalk. So,
making it hard to walk on the sidewalk, honestly.
well, we had a survey done, and the survey showed the boundary lines, and we were considerably encroaching into the right-of-way because of that, so.
Have
Took care
the
of that.
roots affected the foundation at all?
The foundation part of those walls is pretty stable. It was the upper blocks, the upper 2 blocks that were pushed way out.
No, I mean on the Hill House.
Oh, that's being rebuilt completely.
I know, and just, yeah.
Those trees didn't have anything to do with that.
Okay, good.
So that's kind of what's
Yeah.
going on there.
Yeah, that was me. That was me who said that. I was flabbergasted how much of that house I didn't know existed. And I've lived in Bangor my entire life, and I'm obsessed with houses until those trees came down and I saw the beauty of those top windows. Never saw
Never
it.
knew it, right?
No.
Yeah. Those are not original to the house either.
Those are really nice.
They're called Flemish dormers. They're
Yeah.
the step dormers. They're really quite unique. The whole house is beautiful.
It is.
Yeah. But you're right, now it'll be more obvious.
Yeah.
So that's all I know.
Any,
Oh, and we're gonna save some of the wood. So
Yes.
it'll be repurposed.
And have a bonfire. No. Yeah. Give it to a furniture maker.
You can make the wood
Yeah.
gutter you need for it.
Yeah, that's right, that's right. Yep.
I have a question. You mentioned the fence. I wasn't involved with this group 6 months ago, but looking at the packet, there's one old picture of the Hill House, showed the fabulous fence. Is that being recreated?
Yes, to as much degree as we can. It's it's gonna look like a black cast iron fence, which is what was there before, Peter. It's 4 feet tall, and there were vertical pieces of posts, if you will, of granite occasionally. We're not doing that, we're not putting that back. But these will be setting on top of the wall just the way they did in history. So, yeah, it'll be, and there'll be gates, a gate on Union Street side and a gate on the High Street side to get into the property. So-
And Mike, didn't you say during the last thing that they took it out during World War II? Did they, is that right?
I think there were, a lot of
Repurposed.
the metal fences in Bangor were lost, given to the war effort. Yeah,
There's only a handful.
only a handful, and sometimes just one or two sections of what was once an entire. They added a lot of detail. Broadway was, all the houses had them on Broadway.
There's one on Broadway that still has a little bit.
Yeah, and there's one up on State Street, the Adams Real Estate Building,
Oh, yeah.
Nichols House, General Nichols, I think, that has entry posts and then maybe one or two sections of cast
I
iron.
love
Huh.
those.
So, anyway. But I wanted to especially thank Brian and Anya for going on the tour for Jane's Walk last week. That was wonderful.
Yeah, it's great.
We had good weather, nobody got wet or anything. So that was fun.
Yeah,
A lot of new people that have a great interest in Bangor's history, so,
Yay.
yeah.
Okay. Any additional tree conversation? Then I would entertain a discussion about meeting minutes from the last meeting, if there is any to be had. So, would we like to approve those?
Yeah, I move to approve the meetings from the April
11th.
11th meeting.
Second.
All right, let's take a vote. All in favor? Put your hands up, Peter.
Yep.
Thanks. The motion passes unanimously. Shazam! Awesome power. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Easy one.
Does it feel powerful?